As someone who's been around politics for a while now, I mean, what do you think this means for the Conservative leader and his future as the leader of that party and leader of the opposition to lose 3 MPs, 1 to resignation and 2 to defection to this point in the new Parliament?
Well, I think it's a fair comment to say it's not good.
All right, gang, Aaron here, Canadian Looney. We've got David Cochrane with Don Davies. He's the leader of the NDP party, the interim leader. And, well, David Cochrane is the loser from CBC that pretends to be a journalist, but he's actually a propagandist trying to fill your mind with bullshit all the time on the regular. They're going to team up and do it together and try to convince Canadians that Pierre Poilievre is not the right leader. I like Pierre Poilievre, but maybe he's not the best leader for the Conservatives. I don't know why people would reject this guy, but whatever. Let's see what kind of trash they're going to lay down here on national live TV. Let's take a peek.
All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Who cares? I did apologize to the president. President was offended by the act.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the balance of power in Parliament is shifting again as yet another Conservative floor crosser puts the Liberals on the doorstep of a majority. You need 172 seats for a majority in the House of Commons, and with the addition of Michael Maw yesterday, the Liberals have 171. Meaning if everyone votes, the Liberals only need the support of 1 MP from another party to pass legislation. The day before the crossing, the NDP was already taking aim at the Prime Minister for not seeking cooperation in the House.
I look to the Carney government in 2026 to demonstrate that they understand they're in a minority parliament and that they have to work across party lines if they're going to get solutions. They haven't shown that willingness yet.
Joining me now is Don Davies. He, of course, is the interim leader of the federal NDP. Mr. Davies, good to see you. Thanks for coming in, sir.
Thanks for having me, David.
What do you make of these events of the last 24 hours with yet another defection from the Conservatives to the Liberals who are now 1 seat short of a majority government?
Well, I want to say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised in some ways. I'm surprised in the sense that I don't think anybody saw this coming. And of course, putting the Carney government now 1 seat away from a majority, it really has us all, thinking about the implications of this. But what it speaks to me more fundamentally about is the nature of the Carney administration so far. I think it's pretty clear, at least to us, that he's governed on the right of center so far. And he's done things that I think you could take out of any Conservative government's playbook: slash government services, roll back environmental standards, be aggressive towards organized labor, tax cuts on the wealthy, like taking away the tax on luxury yachts and on private planes. So the fact that you've seen now 2 Poilievre conservatives, feel comfortable enough that they could join a government like that, I think says something about the nature of the Carney government, which is that we really have 2 Conservative parties in this country right now, and only the New Democrats are bringing a progressive lens and voice in this House right now.
2 Conservatives elected under Pierre Poilievre, but 1 from Nova Scotia and 1 from the GTA, where the politics tends to be a bit more moderate than sort of the western base of the party. Is that a sharp enough distinction? When you say Carney is centre-right, do you think he's more to the right, or is he in the centre, in your view?
Well, I would never make the argument that he's the same as Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives. I don't think that's fair, and it's not the case. But I think it's pretty clear that he's adopted a right of centre approach. I mean, if you just look at his policies right from the time he took office in May, it's just been one after another of things that any Conservative government would be comfortable doing. So I think that's pretty clear. The tone is different. I don't think anybody can compare to Mr. Poilievre, and I think a lot of Canadians are reacting to that kind of politics, and they're rejecting it pretty clearly. But I do think, though, that it underscores how important the NDP's voice is in this Parliament right now, because we're the only people who are standing up for organised labour, who are speaking strongly in support of policies for the environment, who want fair taxation, and who want to focus on the interests of working families. So we're going to keep doing that.
But here we are with the Carney government at 171 seats, elected with 169, a strong minority, but a minority. What are the implications of them getting a majority government through defections and floor crossings? Because with Matt Genereux sort of gone from Parliament and not voting, if Aaron Gunn were to leave to seek the leadership in BC, as he's talking about, they would have pretty much a majority government in nature, but they could actually get it in numbers if there's one more defection. What are the implications of getting to majority status that way?
It's an excellent question. I think there's some fundamental issues of democracy raised by this. It's majority by defection is different than the parliament that Canadians sent here in April. I mean, Canadians, through their wisdom, decided that they wanted a minority parliament, and that's being changed not through the voices of Canadians or democratic expression, but rather through the decisions of two individual people, and if they do get a majority, three. I come from the riding of David Emerson, who crossed the floor from the Liberals to the Conservatives, 10 or 11 days after an election, and there was a huge public uproar and sense of betrayal that there was no democratic mandate for that. And so that's why our party has always taken the position that you can cross the floor if you want, but your seat should be vacated after 30 days, and you should put that decision to the test of your voters.
Right.
And if, as Mr. Moss says, he's reflecting the interests of the voters of his riding, they will give him that mandate. But I think ultimately the power to choose your representative should reside with the voters in a riding and not through backroom deals.
Yeah, things were a little bit different with Emerson in that he went right into cabinet in the Harper government. Certainly to this point, Chris D'Entremont and Michael Maw have not gone into cabinet. Who knows what happens down the road? But there's no obvious quid pro quo as of yet. But you talked about throughout this parliament that the Liberals needed to accept that they were in a minority parliament. They were kind of reaping what they've sown by not cooperating and having more engagement and compromise with parties. Are we getting some insight into why maybe that is, that they have a plan to deal with this through other means?
Well, I think it's becoming pretty clear that Mr. Carney intended to govern as if he had a majority, and there's a lot of evidence now that they have not reached out across party lines in the way they should have. Look, what do we get? 4 bills passed in 8 months, and of those bills, some of them are not really top of mind things. They're certainly not addressing the real issues Canadians are facing, the high price of groceries and the housing crisis and affordability issues across the board. So now it appears that what he wants to do is to artificially obtain a majority through floor crossing, as opposed to making this parliament work better by cooperating more with the other parties. So
do you see evidence that could work, though? I know you've had a cooperating arrangement with Liberals in the past, certainly under Mr. Singh's leadership and Mr. Trudeau's leadership. But with the outcome of the last election, not having seats on committees, so the issues have really been there in a pretty profound way, with the Bloc digging
Cochrane is disgusting
in on some issues and the Conservatives digging in on others, and then the Liberals not compromising.
right?
But do you see actual paths on the issues that are stuck where they can compromise with the Bloc and the Conservatives in a way that makes sense for the various parties there?
I do, David. Yeah. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but Jack Layton used to say our first obligation and duty,
Overly something,
as parliamentarians, is to make Parliament work for Canadians. And I do think there's a lot of common agreement. No party has a monopoly on good ideas. And I do think if the culture is created where a government is consulting regularly with other parties in a meaningful way and adopting good ideas now and again, that makes for better government. Now, I do think, on the other side, I'll pick on the Conservatives for a moment. I do think that the style of Mr. Poilievre,
just for a moment,
and the approach of the Conservatives to be sort of a take no prisoners, gum up the system, be overly partisan all the time, militates against that approach. So, Pierre Trudeau famously said that good government requires good opposition. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us, government and opposition, to make Parliament work, to all put a little water in our wines and to work for the good of Canadians. And my final point is, that I think is most important, is Canadians are in a bit of crisis right now. I think with the threat from Donald Trump, they're coming together in a way we haven't seen in my political career, not in a long time. Right. I think they want their politicians to come together at this moment in time and seek solutions that strengthen Canada and help them in their lives. So, that's the spirit that I and my New Democratic colleagues will be bringing to this House in 2026.
Yeah, there's a distinction between opposing and obstructing, right? In that you oppose the government, but obstructing it through, sometimes there's legitimate reasons to do it. Sometimes it's just pure partisanship, and that kind of goes in both directions.
Cochrane is such a loser. Like, I can't help it. Sorry.
Here. But, if they do get to this majority, your party's going through its leadership process. You're going to have a new leader by the end of March. A quicker election might help you get back to that official party status, because it doesn't seem like the Carney Liberals are willing to work to change the law, to change the description of official party status. What would locking you into potentially 4 years, with your set?
He's rubbing it in his face right there. Like, David Cochrane is a cockroach. He's as low as they come. He's not a journalist. He's a hack lowlife that is paid to be, I guess, the jerk that he is. Sorry to interrupt.
7 seats and the inability to have a quicker shot at getting back to the 12 plus you need. What would that mean for the NDP?
Well, to be honest, that's not in our mindset. I mean, we're not here to bargain or think about what's best for us right now. We only had an election 8 months ago. And, just like over the budget, I mean, we made the calculation that Canadians don't want an election right now. And more importantly, I don't think our country needs an election right now. I think what Canadians do want us to do is to work strongly together to build our economy, to get more self-sufficient, to come up with an effective plan to deal with Donald Trump, to produce more things here. I think there's a real opportunity for our country right now, maybe born out of crisis.
The Donald Trump thing has to end for the NDP and for everybody. Donald Trump isn't the problem here. Like, whoever thinks Donald Trump is a problem really hasn't looked into what the problem is.
For us to emerge as a stronger, more sovereign nation. And that's what I'm focused on right now. I'm not interested in cutting deals with anybody, and nor are we in any discussions with anybody. We're not here to give Mr. Carney a majority. We're here to represent the 1.2 million people who sent us here, and to bring the voice of working families to this place, because I think we're the only party that's consistently and reliably doing that.
Sure.
Just as a final point, unless something has dramatically changed, you're not going to be going to the Conservative Convention in Calgary to vote in Mr. Poilievre's leadership review. But as someone who's been around politics for a while now, I mean, what do you think this means for the Conservative leader and his future as the leader of that party and leader of the opposition to lose 3 MPs, 1 to resignation and 2 to defection to this point in the new Parliament?
Well, I think it's a fair comment to say it's not good. No leader wants to be losing anybody from their caucus. What do they say? One's a one-off, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is a pattern. Yeah. So if I were Mr. Poilievre, I'd be deeply concerned. It's happening, and what I'm hearing is that there are others in the wings that may be enticing, especially when Mr. Carney only needs 1 more seat for a majority. Yeah. That makes it awfully attractive for other Conservatives in Mr. Poilievre's caucus. And I think it does speak to the style of politics that Mr. Poilievre is pursuing right now, which I think is increasingly clear to most Canadians that it doesn't fit the moment. I think Canadians want politicians who are capable of putting the country first, their partisan interests second, and working together. And that's not the style he's taking, and I think he's seeing the results of that.
It's been a fascinating 2025, and I think it's going to be a fascinating 2026. Don Davies, NDP interim leader, thanks for coming in, sir, and have a good holiday season.
You as well, David. Thank you.
All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up right there. Like, I like Don Davies a little bit, or I dislike Don Davies a little bit less than I used to after watching this piece. Like, David Cochrane, though, is about as low as a journalist can possibly be. It's ridiculous. Like, as far as reporting goes, like, you're a hack propagandist, David Cochrane. Like, I'd love to talk to you about it. Like, why do you like that? Is it because you make so much money at CBC? Because I don't think it's about that. I think it's about you're a nut job. Who knows? Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, get your Canadian federal politics right here. What are we going to do over the Christmas break? There's 6 weeks. We'll try to find ways to make videos interesting. This is maybe the last cut of just one-on-one. We're going to have to mix that up. Like, keep people engaged. I want to be engaged. There will be things happening, like over the Christmas break, like in Canadian federal politics, just not in Parliament. Anyways, we'll mix that up. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, thanks for watching this video. Ciao for now. We'll catch you in the next one. That David Cochrane and the CBC, they all have to go. It's gotten so bad, the decline. I've been watching like stuff since 2015, like recently on to watch the decline of CBC's journalistic integrity, and it's dramatic. It's crazy to watch. Maybe I'll make some videos about that. Anyhow, till the next one, we'll catch you later, gang. We're out. Ciao for now.